Well, hello there and welcome back to the very latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, tell me, everyone that's listening, would you like to hear how to be more present in the moment and how to cultivate compassion for yourself and others? Now, mindfulness compassion therapy, MCT, is a form of treatment that has been shown to be effective in helping people who suffer from anxiety, depression, and other mental health conditions. So to help me discuss this topic and how it can help you, I've got the wonderful Natasha Rose Mills as my guest. Natasha is an actor and a writer, a yoga teacher and a transformational coach specializing in emotional intelligence, career transitions, and mindfulness compassion therapy, which is just as well, really, isn't it, for the sake of this podcast? She works with actors and creatives in the industry, and having known the pitfalls in the industry, she now works with individuals who are struggling with self-confidence, self-judgment, negative self-talk, anxiety, and generally helps them to find their path in life by connecting to their inner guidance, recognize emotional triggers, and become kinder and more compassionate to bring about change so they can recognize their potential, manage stress more effectively, and live the life they truly want. Natasha, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing today, James?
I'm very good, thank you. It started to rain right outside the window, but I think we need some more rain at the moment, so that is all good. How was my introduction for you? That was a very long one.
Yeah, it was probably a lot to say.
There's a lot to say, but you do a lot. So I like people that do a lot. It makes it more interesting. So where do we start? Well, you're an actress. That's what you do.
Yes.
So what have you done anything exciting recently?
Well, the film that I did recently was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I can't say yes. I can't.
Tell me more about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. There's nothing that sounds more exciting than that.
Well, it's a horror film based on the original. So it's based on the original book with from A.A. Milne.
Yes. I know the original. I know the original stories. I read them to my children, and I love them. I don't remember Tigger suddenly getting a saw and then cutting off Piglet's head. Is that the sort of thing this is?
I don't think. I think that's in the sequel.
Is it? Yeah, Adventures of Christopher Robin, the Axe Murderer, maybe. But so, what is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey all about?
Well, I can't say too much about it, apart from the whole kind of premise of it is Christopher Robin went away to college. So firstly, you had Winnie the Pooh and Piglet were his friends. So he went away and they felt neglected.
They felt neglected. They want to get revenge. I love that.
So they went on a whole rampage, and that's what turned them. And also because they had to ravage for food.
Did they? That's terrible. Poor Eeyore, is that where his tail went? Maybe he got bitten off by somebody. I don't know. Who knows what happened? I know far too much about Winnie the Pooh. We got a whole conversation here about Winnie the Pooh. And I grew up on those stories, which is why it fascinates me. I think I mentioned to you as well that I did see your film advertised recently on one of these websites. It said, "There's this new film coming out." And I saw a picture for it. I thought, oh my goodness me. And it turned out to be you, who I'd already connected with. So I'm fascinated by the film. But that isn't what we're going to be talking about today. Serial killers and children's stories. As exciting that would be, I guess the film hasn't come out yet. Maybe by the time this podcast comes out, the trailer will be out, you said, very soon. So when does the film come out in general?
Oh, so the film's probably likely to come out at the end of the year. So the trailer will be coming out, I think, about 3 or 4 weeks time.
So there you go. Anyone that's listening, by the time this podcast goes live, you can Google or look up on YouTube, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey trailer. And I'll be as excited as everyone else is to listen to that. But before we go on to that, how do you transition from actor to a mindfulness compassion therapist?
Okay, so what led me to do what I do today is so I'll start from my story. I was going through a really tough breakup over a period of lasted for say 2-3 years. There's no separation period. And I was struggling really badly with depression for the past year during the pandemic. So obviously I was going through really tough time, and I expect a lot of people were going through a really hard time because we're in isolation, so it's really tough. So I suffer with really bad depression and anxiety, and I struggling to eat as well. So I ended up losing a lot of weight because of that reason. I tried a lot of things, tried therapy. In some ways it was helpful, but I felt very dependent and I needed to talk to that person in order to help myself. So I know I needed to do something else. maybe in conjunction with what I was doing right now as an intervention. But that's what led me to mindfulness and self-compassion. When I studied, I just need to go on a healing journey, because I studied yoga as a way to discover myself during that time, as a way to find out what it is about life. What is it that I don't know? Because I felt like my life was coming crashing down and I was feeling so lost.
Wow.
So that took me on a new journey. And then from the mindfulness, it was a different kind of just understanding how I could actually support myself through self-compassion and being present in the present moment, and knowing how to support myself, giving myself the right practices during the times that I was going through a really tough time. And that's what I did. And I found that it was very transformational. Because of that reason, it changed my life completely. Wow. Through actually knowing that when I was going for a really tough time, I could actually help myself. I could actually offer support for myself. I knew how to encourage myself. I knew how to combat these negative thoughts. When I was ruminating on the past, I knew what to do because I was taught how to do it. And this is what I teach now because of that reason, and because I'm also an actor as well, working with actors predominantly to help them overcome negative thinking when it comes to being on a film set or even going into an audition, knowing what they can do themselves to have more control. Because most of us feel like we have no control of ourselves because we tell ourselves that.
We do. What I love about that is that I deal with this quite a lot with my clients as well, who will have unhealthy relationships, aren't sure what to do, and all this negative self-talk goes on. I'm not good enough, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too old, people aren't interested, all this nonsense. But I can also relate to it as an actor, because I used to be an actor a long time ago. And you do go to auditions and you think, why are they going to choose me? Or you go into it all empowered, feeling wonderful. You walk in the room, there's 30 people just like you, all sat around the room in the waiting room. And you think, oh my goodness me, my chances of getting this. So negative self-talk can be common for anybody, really. But I understand in those two situations, it can be dangerous if you start doing that, because you're not going to have a job, are you, at the end of it? You're not going to have a love life. So what sort of people come to you? Is it mainly actors that come to you, or everybody?
At the moment, it's actors. I do have some other people come to me that I need my support. And it could be people in the film industry at the moment, but I'm open to working with all sort of groups of people, and also knowing that this was helpful for me when I was going through a tough time after a breakup.
Yeah, and people do.
Incredibly helpful.
Many people have some degree of anxiety and negative self-talk and bad days, should we say, sometimes. For example, today I've had a few things maybe feel quite down, which isn't my normal personality, but I've had them today. Various things going on. And I know that by tomorrow it will all be fine. But for many people, this carries on, doesn't it? They start to ruminate on it and it stresses. So at which point does it become an issue? Do you think most people have this to some degree?
I think so. I mean, we're hardwired to think negatively anyway because of our reptilian brain. Where it dates back to patterns of behavior that's built over time, but it all depends on different circumstances in your environment, how you've grown up. But most of us do have that anyway. And to some degree that we do have anxiety, but it's knowing how to manage it in that time and how you can support yourself in that time. And it could be simply by connecting to the breath. Because what that does is when you connect to the breath properly, because most of us are shallow breathing. So because I say shallow breathing up here, because when you're typing at a desk all day and you get so used to it, you create a collapse in the spine. And that means that the breath goes, I know, I have to do that as well when I talk about this.
I slouch all the time, it's terrible. So I'm straight.
So causes the collapse in the spine, you get so used to it. And you don't realize that you're breathing up here, shallow breathing. So if you think back to when you were a child, and you were lying on your back, you were breathing into the belly, so you had nice regulation of the breath, and therefore it was improving the heart functioning of the heart. So this was helping you to get into something called the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. So you felt more relaxed for that reason. So being able to cultivate that just by breathing, and it's such a simple thing, but it's not as easy to do, through the diaphragm. And it could be quite helpful, placing one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, breathing into the belly and breathing out. And doing that a few times and cultivating it, and the more you get used to it, the more you start doing it naturally. So it's almost having to retrain yourself. And the more you do that, you break the cycle of stress and anxiety through getting back in. Because when we're in stress and anxiety, we're in the somatic nervous system. We want to get into the parasympathetic, so we come out of that sense of fight or flight.
Maybe we can try that for a couple of minutes towards the end of the podcast, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Partly because I need it right now, because I don't do breathing properly at all. And also people might be listening, they can pause it and they can replay it themselves and might find it really useful. I've done this before a few times. People have done meditations or exercises, and the feedback has been great. So I'd love to try that if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's
I mean, I was
useful.
going to suggest of doing a meditation. That's just a simple practice. But I've got another meditation under my belt. We
can do them all, whatever you want to do. I think interactive podcasts are always really, really good. And I don't mind being a guinea pig for that, because people can't generally see me. So it doesn't matter what happens, only you can. And I find it hard in life to sit still, as you probably noticed, and I'm always thinking and overanalyzing things. And I don't see that as a problem. I tell my clients that if you overthink things, it's not always a problem until it becomes a problem. Because it's good to think and to care about the outcome and to think about what's going to happen and to plan. It's a body protecting you. But I've often talked about even mindfulness. I struggle with that, but there are many things that I can do in life and many things I'm proud of, but I do struggle with being present in the moment. So any exercises and tips are always useful to everybody, because you mentioned about how the lockdown caused problems to people, and it has, and these problems are still being felt now. People are very, very anxious now. Even things about paying the gas bills or cost of living is so high, people are stressing out about it, aren't they? So these are all useful things to have. So tell me more about the whole term mindfulness, compassion therapy. How does that differ from just, for example, just mindfulness?
Well, mindfulness, let's go back to mindfulness, what mindfulness is. Mindfulness helps you to become aware in the present moment, helps you to pay attention to your thoughts, physical sensations, and the environment around you. Also helps you to be non-judgmental to those thoughts as and when they arise. Therefore, we're creating self-awareness as to the thoughts and creating change from that. We're introducing self-compassion as a way to be kinder towards ourselves in that moment.
Okay.
So that's through the self-compassion and giving yourself support when you need it. So you've got the combination of the two, being present in the present moment and becoming more self-aware as to what you're thinking and feeling. It's all about the thinking and feeling sense, because that's what most of us want to do, is when we're feeling a certain emotion, so correct me if I'm wrong, we want to run away from it because we don't want to feel it. And most of us feel that way because it can be really hard sometimes. We just want to run away from it. What it does is it causes resistance when we do that, because it's reinforcing the same emotion and we're creating this cycle. So the way to break that is feeling the emotion, sitting with the emotion. Once you do that, it changes on its own. It's powerful.
How do you do that without making things worse?
Connecting to the breath.
Okay. So grounding yourself overall.
Exactly. Grounding yourself. So I suggest feet on the floor, breathing in, breathing out, closing your eyes. If that feels right. You don't have to close your eyes, and just noticing where in the body that you're feeling it right now. And seeing if you can send some kindness to that area.
Okay. How do you send the kindness? Just by thinking about it like a white light? What do you do?
Through softening. It's through softening. It's almost just seeing if you can send some kindness. It could be kindness words, phrases that are coming up within the mind. It could be kindness in terms of the breath, that you're softening it, because the more you breathe properly, you're improving the heart function. So you're beginning to soften it naturally without you doing anything at all.
We're going to have to do this in a minute, aren't we? We'll have to go through all this. It fascinates me. It really does. You mentioned how you had a breakup yourself, and this helped you go through the breakup. How can this help somebody now who's going through maybe a breakup or a difficult time?
Helps by supporting themselves, helps you to find a way out. Because most of us, when we're going through a really tough time, a breakup, we feel like I felt like I was in a tunnel. and I didn't know any way out. And most of us are narrow vision, thinking about this one way and this one person, ruminating on the past, thinking about all the mistakes that we made and what we want to change. That's all we can focus on.
Yeah.
We can't be here and now. It's either that or thinking about the future of what it could have been like with that person. And now things have changed. We don't like change because the familiarity we get so used to is having to ground yourself, be kinder towards yourself, self-compassion. So working with a self-compassion teacher could be really helpful to help you to combat that. So you can learn the strategies and skills to be able to support yourself. And this is what helped me. The self-compassion practices, when I was going through a really tough time, I could support myself. And it could be simply placing your hand on your chest, or hand on your heart, and saying something like, it's okay, I'm here for you, you're going to be okay. And then you can say to yourself, what do you need right now? What do I need right now? And then see what comes up. And that might be, you need to go for a walk. You need to relax. So whatever that might be.
These are all the things that I need right now.
These
are. But you were saying that, I think in my head, what do I need to do? I think I probably need a hug. That's probably what I need right now personally.
Yeah, so that might be a hug.
I'm going to hug my kids or my wife when they get back later and do that. But I do that anyway, but it'd be nice to do that.
Well, that releases oxytocin when we hug someone.
It does. It makes you feel good, and that's what I need to do. I normally go for walks, but it started to rain, like I said. But I'm still going to go for a walk after this, just for your benefit, and for my listeners' benefit, to prove that I do this too. Because quite often what I do need to do personally is just to go for a walk. And it is fight or flight sometimes, isn't it? You think, and I think in my situation, if I've got an issue, I don't like to dwell on it too much. I like to think of a solution for it, or realize, like you said, maybe it's a hug myself mentally. I think, well, why are you worrying about that? That's not really an issue. You can just do this, or that's not going to be a problem. It's temporary. A lot of problems in life are just temporary, and they can be fixed, and a whole new day can change them. But I think something you said is very, very interesting there about being kinder to yourself and being kind to others. And it's hard to be kind sometimes if you haven't got that self-love. If you don't believe you're good enough, if you don't believe that someone's going to love you or you're going to get that job, then it's very hard to tell yourself these things. So what could you do to work on just generally being, other than breathing, which we're going to come on to, of course, in a second again, what can you do just to be kinder to yourself?
So it depends on the person. So working through forgiveness, if you haven't done that already, forgiving yourself for mistakes that you might have made, and that will allow you to relieve yourself from the suffering that we sometimes cause ourselves unnecessarily. Because if you're not able to forgive yourself or forgive another person, then what it does is it manifests within the body, and this can cause all sorts of problems long term. So you're holding on to this energy, but it's a nasty sort of energy that just builds up over time. So in order to be kinder towards yourself, it's going through that forgiveness perhaps first, and then giving yourself support. But it can be as simple as, if it doesn't feel right, to say, I'm here for you. And it might not feel right, not for all men as well. For women, it might come easier. But just to recognize,
I can say it.
But just to recognize how you're feeling right now. So you might say, even just by acknowledging, just by saying to yourself, I'm struggling right now. Just by acknowledging it, but being present while you say it will help to relieve some of the experience of suffering that you're putting yourself through, in order to give yourself more support when you're ready to.
I think what this does, it creates tension in the body and gives you backaches and things like that. So something I've been trying to do recently, one of my guests recommended to me something called a Shakti mat. Have you heard of that at all?
What's it called?
It's called a Shakti mat. I have got one here.
Oh, okay.
I'm not promoting these for commission or anything, but maybe
Shakti
I should.
Mat. No.
I'll show you what this is, because one of my guests recommended it. And by the time this comes out, that people might have heard about it. It's a Shakti mat. So what it is, it's a mat, which is handmade in India. But wait till you see this. On this side, you will see.
Oh, I think I have seen these.
Yeah, it's loads of little spikes all over. So you pretty much lie on it like a bed of nails. and it feels, to start with, like you're ripping your flesh out. That's what it feels like. It feels absolutely awful, but it's based on acupuncture and
Oh,
acupressure.
right.
So what it does, it stimulates endorphins and makes you feel really
Yeah.
good. I'm starting to see a benefit in this now by doing it. But what I'm finding is all the tension that I hold in my back is starting to relax a lot.
Yeah.
What I'm getting instead is in my neck instead. It's coming into my neck rather than my back. So my neck is always sore, which is giving me headaches. And they do sell a pillow version as well. Maybe that's an upsell. They try and make you buy this pillow, but I find that's really relaxing, a way of just stressing out. And the reason I'm mentioning it is people might have heard about the Shakti mat a few episodes ago by the time this comes out. And I have actually got one now and I recommend it. It's very, very painful, but it soon goes. The sensation of it is pretty much like lying on a bed of nails. But I prefer your idea of doing the breath work rather than lying on a painful thing.
I think it definitely helps. So even if you're going through, the thing is with mindfulness, it helps with physical pain and also emotional pain. Because when you're present with the experience that you're going through, you're able to breathe into it, which means it starts to disperse pain.
Yeah.
And when you're connected through the mind body, you have more control over it that way.
Okay.
You also send yourself kindness because you have control over your body.
How does yoga come into this then? You do yoga as well, don't you? Is that tied into this or something different?
Yeah, it is tied into it because it's breath work. You know, we do teach breath work through meditation, but it's different in terms of the mindfulness side and the mindfulness therapy side and the self-compassion, which is a different element. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we'll do the breath work and meditation in a second. If you like to do any sort of experiments, we'll do in a second on me, all my listeners listening, and we'll cover that in a second. But one more thing to ask you: you do all these exercises and things. Do you have any daily rituals that you have? Any certain things you do each day? Maybe it's drinking green tea or certain stretches or meditations that you do.
So I like to listen to self-compassion practices.
Okay.
It always helps to give me that support, and certain ones that are helpful for the fear side of self-compassion, which I usually say to myself, "You've got this." And that's a great phrase to tell yourself that, by placing your hand on your heart and saying, "You've got this. It's okay. I'm here for you. You've got this." And I tend to say that to myself. So that's part of my ritual practice that I do. And the meditations I listen to. And I also go to the gym. I practice in the gym. As do I do? I write down gratitude. So I try and do the gratitude practices and then write down 3 things that I'm grateful for each day.
Always good.
And then I write down what I'd like to accomplish, and what are the 2 things that are most important to me that I can accomplish that day, perhaps this week, and then make a note of that by the end of the week, and I can reflect back on what I have accomplished. That's
a really clever thing to do. Then you can realize the feel of achievement that you've actually done something. Goal setting is very important within reason, I think, to this. But again, being kinder on yourself initially and just doing the right thing and taking some sort of action is always going to be good. Wonderful. So tell me, what would you like to do? Meditation, breath work, what are you going to do on me?
Okay.
It needs to be for a few minutes, of course. So yeah.
We could start with simple breath work meditation, which will just help you to. Are you used to breathing into the diaphragm? Or?
I am, but I don't do it enough.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah. So the more you sit up properly will help. Okay.
I'm wondering whether to move the microphone away a little bit so we don't hear too much breathing going on in this.
Fine.
Anyone listening to this as well, that listening to my listeners, do take part in this as well. No one's going to see this. You can pause it yourself and give me your feedback. Tell me what happens afterwards in the comments or email me. That'd be really useful. Or email Natasha, of course, as well. Right, I'm ready for this.
Okay, close your eyes if that feels right. Or dropping your gaze, placing your hands on your lap. Beginning to focus on the breath as you breathe in. And breathe out. And try to see if you can push the breath downwards into the diaphragm, really expanding the air into the diaphragm, breathing in, breathing out. And beginning to notice how you're feeling in this present moment, and becoming aware of how the body and the mind is feeling right now. With that sense of curiosity within the body. And if you find your mind wandering, just gently, compassionately bringing it back to the breath, into the moment of breathing. As you're beginning to breathe in, feeling the expansion of the air in the belly as you breathe in and out. And just taking notice, the expansion on the in-breath and gentle softening as you exhale. And just repeating that a couple of times. If you feel any tension within the body, just seeing where that tension arises, whereabouts it is within the body, seeing if you can gently soften it, and that might be through the breath as you breathe in and breathe out. Seeing if you can soften any tension. Okay, now drawing your attention back to your breath, being aware of any changes of breathing, and whenever you're ready, opening your eyes. Okay,
Yes.
so that's a very simple practice. You can do it any time during the day. Helps to relieve stress and overwhelm, and just find stability in the present moment when we feel disconnected.
I found two things from that. I found that, well, three things actually. First of all, I found your voice very relaxing, which is always a good start. This is what I knew it would be, which is why I wanted to do that. And the second thing is, it's weird because you can see me, and you don't normally do this breathing people watching you, do you? I imagine you do it with your clients, maybe over Zoom or something like that, but I'm not used to being watched when I'm doing that. So I was aware of that, thinking you can see me, and letting myself be completely free and vulnerable to some degree. But that's an important part of what I teach people, which is why I did that as well. And also I found that my shoulders did soften a little bit from that.
Would you like to explain about that?
Yeah, I just found that they dropped, and I was aware of that before, and I was focusing on that just to try and just relax it. And that was, I feel a bit chilled out now, which is good. I find quite a lot of my guests tend to relax me when they talk, which is good. Maybe I do too much talking and thinking in life, and I should do more listening. That's probably what I take from this, which is good. But that was really good. How long are your sessions normally with people?
Usually an hour, between 45 minutes and an hour.
Okay. And do you focus on lots of breathing? Is it all guided meditation, all different things?
Guided meditation of what I teach, but I go through lots of different areas. So depending on where we are, if we're focusing on mindfulness to start with, mind-body connection, and then we might be going to self-awareness. Self-compassion is a huge component of what I teach, and I try and instill that in people and give them the tools and everything that they need. And then we've also got empathy and connection for others. So I've got meditations around that too, to help to build more empathy and connection to others, and also forgiveness meditations, motivation meditations around that. And yeah, lots of different things, sustaining change.
There's a wide mix there.
Peace, yeah. And finding peace and stillment, because when you find more peace, then you get insight coming through, but then you also feel more connected within yourself, but it also gets you insight coming through for creative ideas. So finding peace within yourself, and that's what I teach people to do.
What would you recommend to somebody who was about to start dating again, and they want to, they've been through the breakup, maybe they've been through a difficult breakup, and they're looking back, do you know what, I'm ready now. I'm going to, because this people come to me for this reason quite a lot. They want to start again, not sure how to meet people. What do they do? How do they quickly develop this feeling that they are good enough and someone's going to love them and all these things? What tips could you give someone on that?
Feeling like they're good enough? Yeah,
because there's people tell me all the time they feel they're not ready, and then they want to do this, but they're not meeting the right sort of people, and they're questioning themselves all the time.
So it's a question. It depends what they're saying to themselves. I always like to use well, I use a friend, let's say, like, how would you talk to a friend going through your situation right now? What would you say? So if you're saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm never gonna find my partner, or I'm stupid, that might be a common thing to say. Would you say that to a friend? Would you be harsh and judging towards your friend and criticizing them? Or would you be more kind and compassionate? How can you give that to yourself? So when we use the word how and we ask ourselves the right questions, then we usually find the right answers. But because of the pattern of behavior that we get so used to, built up over time, is having to break that and reform new patterns and behaviors as to how we want to think. How do you want to feel?
That's brilliant. I love that. I think you're right. It is all learning new behavior because you're so used to doing things in a certain way and living your life. And it's just learning things. And everyone's a bit nervous about trying something new anyway. But I think going through that and just trying something and just being kind to yourself and all these wonderful things can always definitely help.
So what I say is, I just add this in, just to say it's okay. You've got this. And it might be placing your hand on your heart if that feels right, and just saying it's okay, you've got this.
I've got my hand on my heart now. I can feel so much tension there. That's weird. Is that a common place to hold tension?
Sometimes, yeah, but especially if you're not used to it. If you that's also being self-aware as to if you are holding tension. Yeah. But the more you practice breath work, the more you breathe properly, you start to regulate the flow, because it's also, when we're breathing properly, improving the heart function.
I think I'm going to try that while lying on my Shakti mat, my bed of nails, and just piercing my body with red holes all over myself at the same time. This might be a good way of freeing that, but I'm scared to do that. But I'll do your way rather than going on the mat. I think it's definitely right.
Well, I've got another meditation. It's called landing practice. If you'd like to do that one.
Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. Landing practice.
Yeah. Okay. So beginning to close your eyes if that feels right, or dropping your gaze, finding a posture that feels right for you, placing your hands on your lap. If you do need for this practice to get a blanket to support your lower back, you can, if it creates any tension, just to support yourself during the practice. So we're beginning to draw our attention back to the breath, breathing in and breathing out, and just being aware that you're breathing right now. You might even say, I'm breathing right now. You might even use the words, I breathe. Whatever that might be for you. As you're focusing on the breath, breathing in and breathing out. If you find your mind wandering, just gently bringing it back to the breath and using your breath as an anchor to bring it back. So now I'd like you to imagine a tree. Autumn leaves. The colour of the leaves. Then one of the leaves detaches from the branch and softly floats down, landing on the ground. And that's what we're doing right now. We're softly coming down and landing once more. Beginning to have a sense of that in your body. A feeling of arriving, of dropping and landing. As you come back to yourself once more. Being with the heart, the body, and the mind in this moment. As we come into the end of the practice, drawing your attention back to your breath, noticing any changes of breathing, then whenever you're ready, opening your eyes.
There we go. Wow.
What did that feel like to connect to the breath today, James?
It felt quite powerful, really, because like I was bouncing a little bit. But several things came to my mind when you were saying that. First of all, am I supposed to breathe just through my nose? I'm never really sure, nose and mouth. You can answer the questions all in one go after, maybe. The second thought was, when you're saying to me to say certain things, do I say them in my head or do I say them out loud? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I never know the answer to that. It's been like praying, I suppose. Do you say it out loud to get more effect? I don't know. And the third thing was, I was thinking how relaxing this was and I was enjoying this, but I was thinking of Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. I think at some point I'm going to probably see you in the trailer running around killing people or being chased, and my whole perspective of you is going to change dramatically from this calming influence.
That's so random.
Jumping up a tree. I thought there's an owl up the tree there. He's got his chainsaw already.
God, that's terrifying.
It is terrifying. But so let's get back on track again. In terms of the breathing and the words, so how do you do that?
Okay. So in terms of your breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose.
Okay.
Simply
nothing to do with the mouth then? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, because you tend to get a dry mouth if you do that.
I do, yeah.
It's not recommended. Okay. If you breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, because that's generally how we're breathing every day. Unless we have a blocked nose, of course.
Or hay fever.
Or hay fever. There we go.
Yeah.
And what was the other question?
It was the language. When you say to say certain things, do you say them to yourself or do you say them out loud? Does it matter?
Say them to yourself within your mind.
Okay, good.
It can be more helpful than saying it out loud, because you're in the moment and you're reflecting. So beginning to have that conversation with yourself.
Yeah. That was really good. Thank you. I enjoyed that. I could do longer ones than that, but I'd probably fall asleep, I imagine, which is probably the whole point, connecting to it.
Yes, that's one of my favorite ones to teach. It's very simple. It takes a couple of minutes. And if you'd like, I can give you a link to my YouTube where I've actually posted this landing practice.
Please do, yes. Yeah. What ways? Give me the link now and I'll put it in the notes for the podcast. Okay. And if someone wants to find you in general, as well as your YouTube channel and your website, how do they do that?
I'm on Instagram, Natasha Rose Mills, and then my other one is Natasha Rose Mills Coach. So that's the mindfulness, the yoga, everything from my Instagram. Yeah. And then I've got my website, but that's not up yet, which it will be Natasha Rose Mills Coaching.
I'm going to look at your website for you, aren't I? I just remembered you asked me that before.
Yes. It's not ready yet. But I mean, I can send it over if I've got the link that's actually active right now. It's taking a little bit of time.
They do. All the best things in life take time.
Oh, I do have a Facebook group as well. It's a Mindful Actors Empowerment Group. That's my main sort of Facebook group where I help people.
Fantastic. Wonderful. I really enjoyed speaking to you. Lots of content's always good. I'm always creating content, hence these podcasts. It's always good to talk to great guests like you. What are you currently working on? Anything exciting at the moment?
In terms of acting?
Acting or coaching?
Okay. So in terms of the coaches, go through that first. I've got a 90-day program that is coming out soon. I'm hoping to launch it in September. So we cover lots of different areas. It's helping to break down the barriers to connection. So it's awareness, mindfulness, and peace. So it's really cultivating all of these together. So when you have more everything that I've said, awareness, mindfulness, and peace, it gives you more insight for creativity, and you're happier and healthier within yourself. Therefore, if you're more happier and healthier, you have more motivation. So there's a lot of studies when it comes to motivation and the connection to self-esteem and also self-compassion. If you can be happier and healthier with yourself, it helps sustainability. It's more satisfied in life.
I completely agree. What about the acting? And then coming up for that?
Okay. In terms of acting, yes, I do. And I'm actually working on a film as a writer with a friend of mine, a director. So yeah, I'm working on that at the moment.
Brilliant. I miss acting. I miss it a lot, but I think I like to live. It taught me a lot of things in life, acting, and all the skills are very transferable to what I do. And many of the coaches I speak to are former actors or ongoing actors. It's all very useful ways to help people because we can connect with people, and that's what it's about. But
Yeah.
Natasha, it's been wonderful to talk to you today. I better let you go. So thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much for having me, James.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.